Great. So now that we've downloaded and installed the Jupyter Notebook, it's time to fire it up. Now, the correct way to do that is using the command line. I'm on Mac OS X, so I get to the command line by using the iTerm application. So I'll open up Spotlight here, type in iTerm and press enter, and here we are. Now, if you're on Windows, you'll need to run the cmd command instead to access the command line. So just find the run option under your start menu and type in cmd and press enter, and you'll be in a similar situation. Now just type in Jupyter Notebook and press enter. Great. So what you can see here is the contents of the exercises for the course. We can navigate down into folders. You can see the exercise files. But you'll notice here that in the top level, I can't actually go any higher. So I can go into a subdirectory, I can go back up, but I can't go any higher. So for this reason, it's really important if you want to use the exercises in the course that you make sure the exercises are in a subdirectory of the directory where you started the Jupyter Notebook. Great. Well, let's look at this one here. So there's multiple files here. Only the first two are Jupyter Notebooks. You can see that because of the little notebook icon next to them. They're also recognizable by the file extension, which is IPYNB. That stands for IPython Notebook. The Jupyter Notebook used to be known as the IPython Notebook. Cool. Let's look at this one here. This is a Jupyter Notebook. Now, a Jupyter Notebook consists of multiple cells in a sequence. The cell we're currently looking at that is currently selected is marked with this blue border here, and I can move up and down using the arrow keys amongst these cells. Now, cells are of different types. You can see which type the cell is by looking up here at the top. This one is type Markdown. This is a language for marking up text, so you can sort of make things bold, give things headings, that sort of thing. And if I go up one, you can see the type of this cell is code. So there's two levels to the notebook. There's cells and there's the contents of the cell. And depending on which level you want to work at, you need to move between two modes. There's the command mode for working at the cell level. That's what we're in at the moment. And there's the edit mode. In the command mode, you can do things like insert cells. You can move them about. You can cut them. You can paste them. Anything you want. But if you want to actually edit the contents of the cell, you need to go into edit mode. So the way you do that is just by pressing enter on the cell. And now you can type whatever you want. And when you want to leave edit mode, you press escape. So enter goes into edit mode, escape leaves it. The other way you can do it, of course, is clicking. You click in the cell or click out. Now the way you know you're in edit mode is the border here that was blue is now green. Also, you've got a cursor in the cell. And just in case that wasn't enough, there's a small pencil up here on the right. Great, so let's write some code. So what's happened here is you'll notice I pressed enter in this cell here, and all it did was create a new line in the cell. It didn't move to the next one. If you want to actually execute the code, you do that cell by cell, and you do it by holding down shift and pressing enter. Great, well, this variable greeting will persist in the next cell here. If I want to see its value, I don't have to print it out. I can just evaluate it in the cell. So again, press shift enter. And in this cell, let's modify its value. So now if I go back up here, execute this cell again, it should say hello world. Great. If I execute this again and this again and this again. Now what's interesting here is that you don't have to execute the cells in the order that they appear in the notebook. You're free to move around and execute cells as you will, which is great. It's really powerful for creating nice documents, but it can get quite confusing. Now if you get confused and you want to go back to 0, just go up here, kernel, restart, and clear output. So now you're back to a blank Python environment and you can start all over again. Well, let's look at the contents of the exercise itself just to have something more to work with. So we'll start by running this bit of code here. Put some cells above here so I've got a bit of space. So what we've done here is use the pandas library to load a CSV from disk as a data frame. Don't worry, if you've never heard of pandas before, this will make much more sense later. But what I wanted to show you It's just how you can interrogate these objects you don't know anything about. So seedsdf is, we think it's a data frame, but here you can just evaluate it in the cell and you can get a visual inspection of it. So we've got multiple columns, they all have values, got multiple rows. But what sort of object is it? Well, you can use a question mark, put a question mark afterwards, evaluate that, and you'll get a dialog that'll show you, first of all, what the type of the object is, and then give you a string representation of it, give you its doc string. Here we've got a list of its parameters, some examples, really helpful. When you're done with that dialog, press escape. And another really helpful thing is tab completion. So suppose you want to sort this thing by its values. You've got no idea how to do that. Just type sort, press tab. Okay, get some suggestions. Sort values might be it. And if you want to know how to use that method, just put a question mark after that. And here you've got the method signature and the doc string. Really helpful. So press escape to get rid of that again. Let's go down here, execute the rest of the code. Great, this is the bit I wanted to get to. So the substance of what we did above makes sense when you get to exercise 16 in the course. But what I really wanted to show you here was that we can produce plots using matplotlib in our Python code, and those plots are then embedded in the notebook itself. So you've got this really rich document where you've got the code that produces certain outputs. You've got markdown explaining what you're doing. You've got plots that visualize what's going on. You can also insert animations and videos, anything you want. And this is a really great way for you to work as a data scientist. This is a document that you can deliver to your client, to your colleagues, to your boss, to anyone who's interested in the insights you're deriving. Moreover, you don't have to give it to them as a live notebook. You can save it as a static HTML. You can save it as a PDF, which is how I made the exercise solutions for the course. You can even turn them into slides. So the Jupyter Notebook really is a fantastic way of delivering insights. Notebooks are auto-saved periodically, but if you want to save the state right now, then just go up here and click on the disk icon. The Jupyter Notebook will warn you if you're trying to leave when you've got unsaved changes. Now, if you want to create a new notebook, just File, New Notebook. Or you can do it over here on the dashboard where we started. You go New. Now, if you installed using Anaconda, then Conda root's the right one here. I've got two Pythons here because on my system there's Python 3 and Python 2. Conda root's the one you want. Voila. New notebook. It's untitled at the moment. You could go in here and type whatever title you want. This will correspond to an IPY-NB file on disk in the directory where you started the notebook. And you can work away here. Another really useful function is creating copies of notebooks. So you can go in here, make a copy. Another thing I should draw your attention to is the help menu. So there's a really nice user interface to it that will explain what all these buttons do. If you're like me and you prefer to use the keyboard rather than the mouse, there's a really good list here of keyboard shortcuts. And then there are links here to some of the scientific libraries we'll be using in the course. So NumPy, SciPy, Matplotlib for plotting, and Pandas for data frames and series. Excellent. So how do we tidy up? Well, you can close these windows as you will. Whoops, better save this one first. The way you actually stop the notebook server though, is you could just close this window, that'll do it. Or if you want to keep the window, just Control-C and select yes. Excellent, so now you know how to start, use and stop your notebook server.